Hey everybody, Mike Jensen, and welcome to video 5. Alright, so what we did was we imported the high poly mesh, as high poly as I could get it into 3ds Max, and it was too big to actually import the whole thing, so I had to cut it up into pieces in Mudbox and then export it that way. And then basically I just threw on a optimize modifier on it to get rid of the, well actually just to reduce the poly count, so the viewports are a little bit faster to work with. And now basically we're just going to build on top of each one and then connect them all together. So we'll go ahead and Alt X and make that invisible. And then we'll freeze it after we pick it to draw on. Make a new object and then we'll just start retopologizing. I'm going to start around the eye. That's usually where I prefer to start. And I'm going to be mainly using the bridge tool. The border tool. Um, I don't know, I just got used to it a little. I like it a little bit better than the build tool. So we'll use that. And we want to keep in mind poly count. I think we're going to end up around 8,000 polygons, which is pretty high. Um, but you need to talk to your supervisor, whoever's in charge of your project, and they'll tell you how many polygons you have to spend. Um, Usually it'll probably be a little bit lower than that, but it's okay. This isn't going to be in a game, so it's okay. And you'll notice during the video I try to keep everything in quads. That's not really necessary. In the game, everything is going to be converted into triangles anyway, so. But it's nice to keep that control over the mesh. And you'll see not everything I make is quads. You'll see me a lot through the video. I'll make something and delete it and make it and delete it, and I'll do it several times. And that's because I'm just trying to figure out the most efficient way to pull something off. And even if something works, you might be able to find something that works a little bit better, so I go through a lot of things more than once. And hopefully it's for the better. Alright, so just ever adjusting where everything is. Start working on that nose area. And for everything we make on the retopologizing process, everything except for the torso is going to be mirrored over. So you only need to build one side of it, and then we'll just use the symmetry modifier on it. Make it a little bit easier. And the torso is actually going to be the hardest part. To make sure, I want to make sure that the each side of the torso has the same topology really, even though it has a different flow or a different kind of different stuff going on each side. I want to make it so that it has the same topology, so they deform the same. Alright, so just building around the lips. And like I said, it's a good idea to check out what other people have come up for topology and how their edge flow works. And it's perfectly okay to use their topology. I mean, there's no point in reinventing the wheel. Someone's already made it. So I go off of just what I see. If you look at people's wireframes, you'll see how they work, and it's a good reference point. You'll tweak stuff here and there, but it's really helpful. Alright, so just extending the innards of the nose, and like I said, not everything's going to be quads. There's going to be some triangles inside the nose. I'm just going to extend those and collapse it, and it's not a big deal though. No one will ever see that. Trying to figure out how I want to connect these, try to keep them in all quads. Alright, so now I'm just expanding on what I have already. And I imported my my other base mesh just to keep an eye on it. See how that flows, and maybe use some of the information that I got from that. And you'll notice in the top left in the viewport, I have my polygon count. It's a good idea to put that up there and just keep an eye on it. But what you really want to keep an eye on is triangles, not polygons, because you could have, say, 6,000 polygons, and then maybe convert it into the game, or in the game it's going to be considered 12,000 because it converts everything into triangles. So you want to keep track of triangles, not polygons, or quads, rather. Alright, so now just working on the horns around the ears, or where the ears would be. And this part's really basic, it's just filling in what you already have. You'll notice you get a lot of stray vertices sometimes. If you drag a vertice off the mesh, it'll snap to the grid because you have it snapping to the mesh, but if the mesh ends, then it has nowhere to go, so it just goes straight to the grid. So keep an eye out for that. That can be a nuisance sometimes. It's not that hard to fix though, really. And you'll notice to keep the I have to keep telling myself to keep the polygon count down, so what I do is, instead of connecting everything directly, I'll go ahead and build, say, the arms separately, and the torso separately, and the legs separately, and then I'll connect them together later. Because if I just pull everything from the face down, I could have a polygon count that I really don't want, so I'll go ahead and just see what I did there is connected the neck in a different way, and I'll just put the difference in between there. You'll see me do that a lot. I grab the whole mesh and try to move it, and it takes a while to load that up, so it's a bit of a problem too. You don't probably won't want to do that if you can control it. And delete all those planes. I don't know where I picked those up. Alright, so now we'll move on to the torso. And like I said, this is the one thing that we're not going to be doing symmetrically. And I want to keep an eye on, when I'm making the body and like the muscular structure, I want to keep an eye on how the muscles actually flow. Doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but if you get the edge flow and the way the muscles flow, they tend to get a little bit better deformations. Alright, so just pulling everything down from the chest and making sure I get some edges in between the abs and on top of the abs to create the high peaks and the low canyons, I guess. Crevices. There we go, putting about 3 per ab is a general rule for myself, I guess. I try to do one ab on one side and then go directly to the other side, so I don't do everything on one side and then forget how I did it on the previous side, and everything might not be symmetrical. I'll do that a little bit later on, and it just creates a big hassle. There we go. I assume you line up the middle vertices so the symmetry modifier works correct. And we went over that in video 2, I think. Yeah. Alright, so just defining the inner part of the belly button. And pulling everything down like we've been doing. You know, and those polygons look a little bit long, so I'll probably do something about that. Maybe add an extra line into the chest, and there we go. Alright, and now I noticed the polygons were going to get pretty dense down in his crotch area where it doesn't really need to be too dense. So I'm just going to go ahead and meet those in the middle together to lower the poly count. And do that a few times actually. Because we don't really need, 4 edges at most. I mean, sorry, 4 polygons at most. I'm sorry, we're just going to start, for the edge flow down there, follow the edge of the obliques. Like so. Go ahead and merge those again. Try to do as much as possible without making it look ridiculous. Alright, so now we're just going to start extending onto the lats. One of the things you really want to keep an eye on for game models is the silhouette of the model, because well, while the normal map can fix a lot of the problems in the low and or can alleviate the problems of low geometry, you can't fix silhouette. So you'll notice like the lats look a little bit kind of jaggedy, but we'll fix that. Go ahead and fix that a little bit later. What we'll do is we'll put on a completely black material, and then we'll just look at it from all the angles and see where things are conflicting and where it's not. You want to create a really smooth idea. So I want to start creating the arm. And like I said, we're creating everything separately, and then we'll go back and fix that later, or connect them later. And you got to remember when you go on to the next thing to work on, say the arm, to pick the high poly arm to draw on, or else you'll get some really funky results. You'll catch it really quick though. Hide everything else because it was kind of getting in the way a little bit. Alright, so now I'm just being conscious of how many polygons I really need to define the bicep and the rest of the muscles on the arm. I want to hide a lot of the high poly geometry because it's dragging down my viewport speeds. So the more I can hide, the better the speed will be. Let's see, getting a little bit faster now. And I'm trying to find ways to, as we get down to the wrists and stuff from the arm, it's a little bit thinner, so we don't really need as many polygons to get the same amount of detail. So I'm trying to find ways to reduce that, and you'll see like in the opposite side of the elbow, I don't know what it's called. We'll go ahead and just merge those together and then start from there. And see, we're trying to keep the edge flow to kind of flow, for lack of a better word, around the muscles. So we can get the best definition in terms of polygonal definition. Alright, so we got the arm pretty much done, just a few more tweaks here and there. And I didn't really like the way the silhouette was working right there, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that, make the elbow a little bit better. And I'm still trying to keep everything in quads. Again, not a necessity, just a habit. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and mirror to the other side, and then attach it to the torso and the rest of the body. Alright, so now I want to start working on the hands. And we'll go ahead and hide everything else except for high poly hand and the low poly hand. And I'm thinking about 6 edges per finger. In terms of vertically, I guess. Or the circumference. And the one thing you really want to keep in mind when you're making the fingers is to have enough definition where the knuckles are and where all the joints are, so you don't get any weird deformations. Enough meaning that you notice when you bend your finger, you have a nice fold. You want that to relay over into your model as well. So you'll notice I'll create a double ring around the knuckles and around everything else where it bends, so we don't get any weird deformations. Like so. Alright. And then after we finish this finger, we're just going to go ahead and copy it over. It's the fastest way to do it, so. And it's a little bit less tedious than creating each finger one by one. So we'll go ahead and just copy that one and throw it on all 4. Scale it, and then we're good. Just connect it. A lot faster. Tried to move the mesh again. It takes like 3 minutes to fix it. Even at the speed we're going, so it's taking quite a bit of time. So try not to do that. Control Alt Shift and then trying to move with the move tool just doesn't work very well. And after I created each finger, I'm trying to I'm moving it so it snaps to the high poly mesh. And I'm creating more definition in the knuckles, just start looking a little bit flat. So there we go. Oh, excuse me. Alright, you'll see that one was off a little bit. Oh, almost done connecting that one. Make sure it's fleshed out and not kind of flat, like I had it a little bit. Now let's work on the pinky. Alright, create the knuckles on those two. And then move on to the rest of the hand. Go ahead and start the thumb. Probably the most complex part of the hand. And the most tedious. Notice again, creating that double loop there for deformation purposes. Alright, so now we gotta connect the rest of the hand. And that's gonna prove a little bit difficult because it doesn't have the same amount of edges on each side. But it's not gonna be that hard. We'll figure out a way pretty swiftly. But what my problem was is I wanted to figure out a way without changing the number of edges in the fingers. So that was a little bit difficult, but found a way. And like I said before, assume you delete a lot of stuff, and I go back to it. And that seemed to work. So there we go. Go ahead and delete the other arm and merge it over again. Alright, so now we're going to start on the shoulder. And connecting to the torso to the arm. So we got some pulling on the polygons, grabbing them where we don't need them through the mesh. Alright, so this is probably one of the more challenging parts because we got to connect everything to the torso, and since the torso isn't mirrored, I have to keep looking at one side and seeing how I did it, and then going over to the other side and make sure I did it the same way. I didn't really have to go through all that trouble, but I wanted everything to be kind of neat and clean, and by my definition, that includes symmetrical edge flow. Like this part, it's pretty difficult to get everything going right. I'll go ahead and copy this over there and then mirror it over to the other side so I can see how it's going. And try to create it work properly. Alright, now what I did to create any overlap was I made one of them see-through and the other one not, so I could see exactly where they were overlapping and where I could delete the polygons. Sorry if it's giving me a lot of trouble. I just can't seem to figure out how I want this to work. But I think I got it right now. So now we'll go on to the wings, or feet. Wings it is. Alright, so hide everything I don't need. Create more speed in my viewport. Had a little bit of a problem with the mesh in the head, so I had to separate it and then delete half and then remirror it and then connect it back again. If it seemed a little bit quiet this video, it's because there's really not much to talk about. It's the same step over and over. Now we're just going to go ahead and weld these side after we merged it, or mirrored it, sorry. So same process when I can't figure out how to do one side on the other side, or the same thing on the other side. Just mirror it, and then use those polygons. Alright, so same process again until I get the same edge flow. And that seemed to turn out. Alright, so now we'll hit the wings. Hide half the body to create from any pulling of polygons we don't want. Now we'll just start working on the body. Sorry, the skeleton of the wings. You notice I was trying to pull from the body into the wings, but that was creating too much geometry. More than I wanted. Oh, excuse me. So what I did was I just pulled a polygon over and then started working from that. And I'll go ahead and connect it later. Worry about the connections later. Alright, so there doesn't really need to be too much detail on these parts. I'm just trying to replicate the same thing we did on the other side. And work on those horns. I need to add a little bit more geometry to the end part of the wing flap. It's a little bit low poly right now, so we'll go ahead and make a little cut in that. And that should be good. There we are. Now that's the part that gave me the most trouble. For the wings anyways. Just trying to get the right polygonal structure on this. Doing a lot of deleting right here. But it's all for the greater good in the end. And I want to put more definition on that bone area, the larger bone area as well. So what I'll do is I'll do the same thing I did on the fingers and just create a few cuts in the edges. And then pull them out and make sure it's all fleshed out. You see, it's not very high poly right now. There we go. Starting to get somewhere up there anyways. Alright, so just now we'll extrude the horn and then put a little edge in there to create more detail. And do the same thing for these horns. Just extrude the edges, collapse it, and then put some more definition in there. Alright, so now we'll start connecting the back to the wing. And it'll be a little bit difficult, but not too difficult. There we go. So everything's perfect on the back side. The front side is going to cause us a little bit of a problem. Not to worry. Just trying to make a way to keep this all quads. And the easiest way right now would be to just add another edge down into the legs. But I don't want to do that quite yet. There we go. Alright, so now we're add onto the legs, which is basically the same process as the arms. I'm creating the legs a little bit lower poly than the arms. No specific reason for that. It's just a note. Legs should go pretty quick. Alright, yeah, everything's pretty basic on the legs. This part gets a little bit more detailed, but still pretty basic. Just trying to follow the musculature again. Alright, just started building the feet and the toes. And probably do the same thing we did with the fingers, where we just copy the same toe over and over again. Alright, and there doesn't need to be, I mean, like, these are the toes. No one's really going to be taking too much close attention to these, so they don't really need to be too high poly. It would be wasted on them. There wasn't enough definition right there where that last curve was in the calf, so we'll go ahead and fix that. Reducing the polygons right here to make it so it creates a better fit. Alright, so all done there. Now we'll just finish up the tail is all that's really left. Go ahead and unhide the tail, and then start drawing directly on it. Same as everything else. So I'll just drag a polygon out and create half. Don't need to create the other half because it's going to be mirrored, so it's not a big deal. Alright, this part's basically the same part as the wings. You got the same spikes, so I'm sure you guys know what to do by this point. Smear it, make sure everything's in the center. Finish up that spike on the end, and then the very last one. Alright, so all we need to really do is connect the tail, and then we're set. Then it'll be time to UV map it. Have to recheck the silhouette, of course. Alright, so it's a bit of a hassle to do the same thing on the other side, so I'll just go ahead and mirror it again. Alright, so it's looking pretty good. Oh, forgot the horns there. Alright, so just fixing up all the seams or stuff that's not working properly. Just looking at the silhouette. I get a better idea of the silhouette after I put on the black material, but go ahead and finish the inner parts of the mouth and the eyes. And just weld those back in like we've been doing numerous times. Alright, so now we'll just go ahead and throw black material on it. In a sec, I suppose. What I'm doing right now is I'm checking the silhouette and proportions, not using the black material. You can do both. It's a good idea to do both, actually. Um, the black gives you a nice contrast, but just the standard gray material gives you an idea of everything that's going on. And when you use a black material, you want to make sure that the light is set to 100% self-lit, so it doesn't receive any light. So I'll just put a little bit more definition in there, and then weld it back up. Alright, and that's pretty much it, so I'll see you guys in the next video.